Welcome back to the online class of physics. This is your Naima Miss back again with a new topic, that is the modern periodic table. So as we have learned in our previous class that these are the groups. Yes, 1 to 18 groups we have here, and we have 7 periods, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 7 periods and 8 groups. Yes, we have learned this in our previous class. So you can see the arrangements here. See 1, 3, 11, 19, 37, 55, 87. These are all hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. These are all the alkali metals, right? Now this barium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, radium, these all are alkali earth metals. Yes, these are alkali earth metals. These are alkali metals. And you can see this, you can say at third group elements, you can say that boron family, carbon family, nitrogen family, oxygen family, fluorine family, or also you can say them halogen family. Okay, and this is, you have 18th family, you can call them as noble gas family. Okay, noble gas family. About metals and non-metals. So what are the elements in the periodic table? What are metals, what are considered as metals, and which elements are considered as non-metals? So metals means, see, the elements which are having 3 or more electrons in their outermost shell. In their outermost shell are considered as metals, and if the electron is having 5 or more electrons in their outermost shell, then they are considered to be the non-metals. They are considered as non-metals. So the elements which are having 3 or more electrons in their outermost shell are considered as the metals, and the elements which are having more than 5 electrons in their outermost shell are called as non-metals. For example, if you see the metals, you can say that the elements of D block elements with the third group to, you can say, till 12th group, you can consider them as the metals. Third group elements to 12th group elements, they can be considered as metals, and these are also known as transition metals, or also called as D block elements. Because of their metallic character of D block elements, they are called as transition metals. So the elements in D block, they gradually decreases. Okay, the metallic character of D block elements gradually they decreases from the third group to 12th group. Okay, so they are like lanthanoids and actinoids. They actually belong to third group, which is within the transition. Okay, these groups, if you see the periodic table, you will find the empty empty boxes. If you see here, you can see that here there are 2 empty boxes. Okay, these are nothing but these are the inner transition elements, that is D block elements. Third group. Okay, third group in D block elements, you can see that there are 2. This is nothing but lanthanides and actinides, where here they are given down. You can see here down they are given 2 blocks. It is nothing but lanthanides and actinides. So that's they are called as inner transition, that is the lanthanides and the actinoids are called as the inner transition elements. That's why they are placed down separately, because there are so many. Again, they don't have place. They have been taken as a block. okay, but they belong to third group only. And there are some elements which show both properties, like they show some properties like metals and some properties like non-metals. They are called as metalloids or semi-metals. So the metals which possess both the metals and non-metals properties are called as metalloids or the semi-metals. That means they are semiconductors. So they are nothing but semiconductors. Example we have boron, silicon, arsenium, okay, so we have so many examples like non-metals and metals properties they are having, and they are called as metalloids. That is nothing but they are semi-metals. And all the elements in the S block, all the elements of S block are nothing but metals. Okay, you can say all the S block elements are metals, whereas in P block, except 18th group, because they are 18th group elements are they are noble gases, right? So they are, except this 18th block elements, 18th group elements, they are metal, non-metals and metalloids, okay, in the periodic table. So let us learn about the periodic properties. What is periodic property? When an element is arranged according to their electronic configuration, the properties of elements in periodic table reoccur at regular intervals, and such properties which reoccur is called as periodic property. Okay, the property which is reoccurring is nothing but the periodic property. As we have learned that the elements in the groups are arranged according to their electronic configuration, right? And in period also you can see that the elements are arranged according to their increase in atomic number. Okay, there is definitely increase in atomic number by 1 unit, at least 1 unit also it may increase, right, in one unit. So that means we can say that there is a difference in the physical and chemical properties of the elements present in the period, whereas the elements which are present in group, they are having same properties, same chemical properties. As we have learned about the helium, sodium, potassium, there we have learned NaOH, there is a combination. If it will form, it will form sodium oxide, hydrogen will form water, H2O, hydrogen oxide, right? So like that. Similarly, but here if you see in the periods, it do not have the same properties. Okay, there is a change in the properties. Okay, so that's what we are going to learn here, why there is a change. So there is a change from left to right. Okay, to understand this, we will learn some properties of the elements and discuss how they vary in groups and in periods. So the first property is valence. So the first property is nothing but valence, or you can even call it as valency. So valency of an element was defined as the combining power of an element with respect to hydrogen, oxygen, or indirectly any other element through hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, valence of an element with respect to hydrogen is the number of hydrogen atom with which one atom of that element chemically combines. Valence of an element with respect to oxygen is twice. Okay, suppose if the element is combining with hydrogen, you can say that its valency is 1, because the hydrogen is having only 1 electron in its outermost shell. So that means it requires only 1 electron. That's why hydrogen is getting bond, means it is getting stable. That means the valency of this element is 1. Suppose to this element the oxygen is combining. Now the oxygen means it is not only O, right? It is O2. That means the bond formed between the element and the oxygen is 2 bonds. So that means the valency of that means the requirement of this element is 2 electrons. So the valency is nothing but the requirement of this electron. So that means you can say that now the valency of this electron is 2. So that means the outermost shell of this element requires 2 electrons to form a stable bond. Yes, so that means you can say the valency of this electron is 2. So simply we can say that the number of hydrogen or the oxygen bonds which are combining with the element will show the valency of the element. So next property is atomic radius. Atomic radius is nothing but the distance from the nucleus to the distance from the nucleus and the outermost orbital. Outermost orbital. Suppose this is the outermost orbital of the element. So the distance between the nucleus and the outermost distance is called as atomic radius. What it is called? It is called as radius. As we know, if we take any center point to the last point of, if we measure, this is the radius, right? So because it is the radius of atom, we call it as atomic radius. So it is nothing but the distance between the nucleus and the outermost shell. We see that atomic radius of an element is not possible to measure in its isolated state, that is, it is in single state. This is because it is not possible to determine the location of electron that surrounds the nucleus. Okay, it is not possible to find out the position of the electron. However, we can measure the distance between the nuclei of adjacent atom in a solid. From this, we can estimate the size of an atom by assigning half of the distance of the radius of each atom. In periodic table, you can see that 70%, most of 70% of the elements are metals. So this metals atomic radius is called as, because it is the radius of metals, it is called as metallic radius. What it is called? It is called as metallic radius. We see in chlorine atom, what do we see? The distance is measured by the size of an atom is to measure the distance between the two atoms, distance between the two atoms of chlorine. Okay, distance between the two atoms of chlorine is taken and half of it is taken as the atomic radius. Okay, where they will take the distance between the two, because in chlorine you see the bond formation is Cl2. So two chlorine molecules are involved. So in this, what they will do, they will just take the size of the chlorine atom by measuring the length of the covalent bond between the two chlorine atoms, and half of this distance is taken as atomic radius, which is called as covalent radius, or because this bond is nothing but covalent bond. Yes, this is nothing but covalent bond. So this radius is called as covalent radius. What it is called? It is called as covalent radius. The atomic radius is measured in picometers. So it is measured as picometer, PM. Now if you see the atomic radius along the groups, what do you observe? We observe that the periodic table, when we go down in the groups, okay, when we go down, as we go down, the atomic number of the element increases, right? As we go down, you see that the atomic number, there is an increase in the atomic number. You see increase in the atomic number along the group, right? Hence, new shells are added to it, right? We find that new shells are added, continuously new shells are added. So that means along the group the atomic number increases as the new shells are added. As a result, the distance between the nucleus and the shells increases. Right? The distance between the nucleus and the outermost shells increases. This is the reason why atomic radius increases as we go down. Okay. So as the atomic number increases along the group, as the atomic radius increases along the group, we see that there is an increase in the atomic radius also. As we know, it is the distance from the center to the outermost electron, outermost shell. Right, it is the distance between the center of the nucleus and the outermost shell. Right, if suppose this is the outermost shell, fine, if this is the outermost shell, we see that the distance has increased. There is an increase in the distance. So there is a increase in the distance between nucleus and the outermost shell. There is a decrease of increase of the atomic radius. So that's why we see that there is an increase in the atomic radius along the groups. As we go along the period, you see that from left to right, the atomic radius increases. Along the group. Whereas when we move from left to right in the period, you see that the atomic radius decreases. There is a decrease in the atomic radius. As we move along the group, the atomic radius increases, whereas if we move along the period, you see that atomic radius decreases. So why? Because there you can see that we have here D block, F block elements, right? We have D block, F block elements. Here what these D block, F block elements do, the electrons, they do not, they just occupy the innermost shells. They have more innermost. D block element is again having innermost shells, right? So these innermost shells are occupied by the electrons there. So there itself they are getting occupied. So the attraction force between the nucleus and the outermost shell increases. Okay, so the attraction increases. So you see that there is a strong force and they are closer to each other. So we can say that the radius is less. Okay, so we see that atomic radius decreases. They do not increase, but they get decreased. In groups they get increased. Do remember, in groups they increase, and in periods, along the periods, it decreases. For example, if we take sodium, the atomic number is what? 11. Okay, that means there are 11 protons and 11 electrons, right? If we take sodium ion, you see there are 10 electrons. That means they have 11 protons but 10 electrons. Yes, they have 10 electrons. So outermost shell configuration becomes now what here? In this case it becomes 2s2 2p6, whereas here it is having 2s2 2p6 and 3s1. So there is one electron in the outermost shell. Here you see there is no electron. Fine. So there is a size of the Na plus ion shrinks, right? So in general, the positive ion of an element has less size than its neutral atom, because now the one electron is less, right? Now here the one electron is less. Here you can see one electron is there, so it is having some big size. If one electron is removed, then it shrinks, it comes more closer. So you can see that the covalent radii are, comparatively they are less. So here we can say that the attraction between the nucleus and the 2p6 electrons, that is the outermost shell, is more compared to the Na, that is sodium. Okay, so we can say that this cation is having more attraction when compared to the sodium. Right, so there is more attraction. You can say that here the atomic radius is having more strong bond. Fine. And if you take the chloride and chlorine, that is Cl and Cl minus ion, what is the difference there? If you take chlorine, you can see that the atomic number here will be 70. Right. If you take chloride ion, chloride means minus ion is here. Right. So it is having 18 electrons now. Right. 18 electrons it is having. So in the last shell, you can see that here the outermost shell, that is 3p, 5 electrons are there. Here you can see that last you have 3p6. Outermost shell is having now 6 electrons and here it is having 5 electrons. So that means the distance here, it is having, like, comparatively here, if you have one more electron is added, so that means the distance increases. So that means the radius also increases. So the chloride ion atomic radius is high, where chlorine ion, it is little less. One shell is less there, so one electron is less. So you can say that the chloride ion and chlorine, their atomic radius also there differs. So that means this negative negative charge, that is negative ion here, the anion of an element has the bigger size than its neutral atom. So that means the atomic radius of the chloride is more when compared to the neutral chlorine atom. Next, Next property is ionization energy. So the energy required to remove the electron from the outermost orbital or the shell of a neutral gas atom, then it is called as ionization energy. The energy whatever is required to remove the electron from the outermost electron, that is, this is a nucleus and this is your outermost shell. The electron present in this outermost shell you have to remove. So the energy, whatever energy required to remove the shell electron from the outermost shell is called as ionization energy. Okay. The energy required to remove the first electron from the outermost shell is called as the first ionization energy. Okay, first ionization energy. Then the energy required to remove an electron from unipositive of an element is called as second ionization energy. What it is called? Second ionization energy. That means to remove first electron it is called as first ionization energy. If you are removing second electron it is called as second ionization energy. If from the same shell you are removing one more electron, then also it is like second energy is required for remove the electrons, and it is called as second ionization energy. For example, this is some element. Okay, now you have applied one for that is first ionization energy, and you have removed one electron, and here left is R plus, that is 1. Okay, one valence it is having. Now again on this R plus you are applying one more ionization energy. So this is called a second ionization energy, and now this is changing into, see, one more electron is removed from it, so it will become 2 plus 1 electron. So this is nothing but first ionization energy, second ionization energy. Similarly, more if you are using it can come to 3 or 4 ionization energies also. Now here ionization energy depends on few factors. What are those? It depends on the nuclear charge, screening effect, or you can even say shielding effect, then penetration power of the orbitals, then you have stable configuration. If it is having stable configuration, then also it has to face the problem. If then depending upon the atomic radius of the element. More is the nuclear charge, you can see more is the ionization energy. For example, you have sodium atomic number is 11 and chlorine atomic number is 17. So whose atomic nuclear charge, that is atomic number, is more? 17, right? So that means the distance between the nucleus and the outermost electron is more in the chlorine or sodium. It is more in the chlorine atom, right? So the distance between the electron and the outermost shell is more in the chlorine atom. So that means the more is the ionization energy in the chlorine ion. So the next property is a factor is screening effect, or it is also called as shielding effect. So more the shells present in the outermost that is outermost electrons, or the more the shells with the electrons between the nucleus and the valence shell, they act as a screen or decreases the nuclear attraction over the valence electron. If there are more number of new electrons present in the shell, they act as the screen between the atom between the electron and the nucleus. So they decreases the electron attraction, nuclear attraction between the electron and the nucleus. So this will lead to the less ionization energy is required, because there is less attraction between the shells. For example, you have lithium 3 and cesium you have 55. Yes, so this means that there are more number of electrons in the outermost shell, and because of this there is some screen created between the nucleus and the outermost shell. So it require the electron ionization energy required is less. Next factor is penetration power of the orbitals. Orbitals belonging the same main shell, they have different piercing powers. They may belong to same shell, but they have different piercing powers. So there you can see, for example, if you have 4s is greater than 4p is greater than 4d is greater than 4f, right? So here you can see that in this you can see that the penetration power is, here you can see, you can easily remove the electron from the 4f, right? So it is easier to remove the electron from 4f than the 4s. This is one orbit, right? This is one orbit. In that they are divided like this: 4s, 4p, 4d and 4f. So these are relatively very weak, so they can be removed easily from this shell. For example, if you take beryllium, you will see that it is having how many? 1s2, 2s2, 4 electrons, right? If you take boron, you see that 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. So that means the electron present in the p1 can be removed easily because its penetration power is less, whereas compared to this 1s2 and 2s2. Okay, so compared to beryllium and boron, boron's penetration power is less. So stable configuration, it is easy to remove one electron from a stable element. That is, if you take oxygen, it is having O8. You can see that its electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 2p4, sorry, 2p4. Whereas if you take nitrogen 7, you see that 1s2, 2s2, 2p3, right? Here they are not stable, so they will be thinking we should give or not electrons. Okay, if they give electrons, again they'll become more weak because again they will have the valency of one more electron here, right? But again they'll because one electron is present. Okay, semi-filled cells now, see here we have here like this 1 2 3 semi-filled cells are there in the 3p, because we have here 3 6, right? 3 p6, but here we have 3, right? So here you can see that they are semi-filled electrons present here. Already they are having semi-filled electrons. If they will give again weak, they will become. But here you can see that they are 1 2 3 4. Okay, so that means if they will give one electron also, they are, however, they can give one electron. Oxygen can give one electron, so it will easily give away this electron. So because of this, we can say that the stability configuration also depends for ionization energy. And the next property is atomic radius. We have already learned about atomic radius. So more the atomic radius, less will be the ionization energy. So simply we can say the more the atomic radius, less will be ionization energy. More the atomic radius, less will be the ionization energy. So from this we can say that ionization energy decreases down the group and increases along the period. Ionization energy is also called as ionization potential, but when we use the term ionization potential, it is better to write the unit as eV atom inverse. Okay, -1. With this, we'll end up the video. In next class, we'll meet with the electron affinity and negativity and metallic and non-metallic properties of the elements, and we will complete the chapter. So, thank you for watching.